Welcome to the Diversity Connector podcast, where we explore the rich tapestry of human experiences. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, and together as we dive into conversations that bridge cultures, challenge stereotypes, and celebrate the unique perspectives each of us brings to the table. Each episode is a journey through stories and insights from a kaleidoscope of voices, each sharing their colorful narrative. Whether you're at home, on the go, or just anywhere in between, you're now part of a community that values understanding, inclusivity, and the beauty of diversity. So plug in your headphones, get comfortable, and let's connect through the power of our shared stories. Joining us on the Diversity Connector podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Diversity Connector. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Bali, Indonesia today. And I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi, and thank you, Gertrude. Hi, thank you, Gertrude. That was a lovely introduction. I'm so happy to be invited to be part of this podcast. The essence of connecting and amplifying diverse and multicultural voices is kind of a passion of mine. So my name is Lina Orozco Múnera. I'm originally from Colombia. I'm currently based in Melbourne. I've been here for almost 6 years. And I started my journey just before coming to Australia when I decided that I wanted to progress in my career. So I started organizing to do a master's here in Melbourne, the Communications and Media Studies Master's at Monash University. And when I came, it was really hard. It was a really hard journey for me because I didn't know anyone in Australia. I came here by myself. It was really isolated experience at the beginning. I was missing home a lot, and it's kind of difficult when you're a migrant, especially at the beginning and when you don't have connections because you are like kind of living in between two worlds. I was physically in Melbourne, but I was mentally back in my home country in Colombia, and I was connected. I was, on my phone all the time, waiting when there was the adequate time for me to talk with my friends and family. And as you know, or maybe not, but the time change, the time zones are pretty big. So in Australia, we're plus 16 hours. So often when I was talking with my family or friends, it was the day before. So there was a lot of time that I was by myself and I couldn't speak or talk to anyone, which was really hard, but also helped me to find my own independence and freedom, which is one of the reasons why I came here. And kind of my journey without knowing opened the door to a whole new purpose and kind of career path that I didn't thought for myself. I always been a creative person, but when I came here, I was pretty lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was not happy back at work. And I came here to find like new doors, new opportunities. But it was also hard because when I came here, I was nearly turning 30s. So I was battling with all of these beliefs that I was raised with back in my home country. Society will tell you that if you're a woman by the age of 30, you have to have your life settled and organized. And what they meant by settled and organized was you had to be married, or with prospects of being married. You have to have a house, you have to have a car, you have to have kids or planning to have kids. You have to get married. If not, you're gonna be a splinter, a spinster, a spinster. And when I came here, I had nothing. Like, I had nothing at all. I had no house, no car. I had no partner or prospects whatsoever. I also had no savings because I took all of my savings to come here with a loan to do my master's. I was a student again. I was a professional marketing coordinator back home, and here I was a waitress. I had to start working as a waitress to support myself. So it was really hard and lonely because I didn't know anyone. I was struggling to try to fit in, to try to feel included, but also I was struggling with the idea, that I was a failure as a woman, because I didn't check neither of the boxes that I was supposed to check when I got my 30, right? And then I was very lucky that I got through my master's at Monash Uni an internship in an organization that works to prevent violence against women. And that's when I started my journey in the sector of domestic and family violence and gender-based violence. And I just loved it. I just loved it. I became passionate about it, passionate about women's rights, passionate about women's safety. And in my journey, I started to realize that especially migrant women are more vulnerable than other groups of women. You often come here, you're by yourself, you don't have connections. Most of us come here with a temporary visa, which, as you know, strips you of a lot of security and how you say that word, and security and kind of and some benefits because you are not a citizen. A lot of migrant women, unfortunately, suffer from family and domestic violence or intimate partner violence. A lot of them are isolated. They don't know how to navigate Australia, let alone navigate the professional workforce. And that's when I started my journey with Professional Migrant Women, where we help migrant women to not only get their first professional job here in Australia, but also progress in their career. As you might know, being a migrant has its own challenges, and in the professional and workplace, it gets amplified. We have a lot of obstacles that we have to, hustle around to pass through. And it's true for all of us. I remember that at the beginning of my professional journey, I got a really, I was a bruise. My ego was bruised and my confidence was bruised because I was told that I didn't know what I was doing. I was treated again as an intern, as if I had not experience at all, even though I had plus 5 years of experience when I came here, because I had a second language and an accent that somehow, affected my credibility. I felt I had to work like 3 times, 4 times harder than my colleagues. I will be micromanaged. I will be treated as as someone who was just started their career journey. And meanwhile, back home, all of my friends were already managers, directors, and here I was, starting all over again, but with all of these obstacles that I've never had to face before. So with Professional Migrant Women, when I started working there, I just wanted to help other migrant women know that they're not alone, that this is a journey that we all have been going through, but you don't have to do it alone. And yeah, I'm gonna stop there.
Wow. And your story is so common to all of us. And it's a real pity that people still make sweeping assumptions of people just based on an accent or the country they come from. But you seem to have found yourself in just the right place. So, can you explain to me what was the reason or the moment or experience that ignited your passion for diversity and inclusion, particularly in the realm of strategic communication and digital storytelling?
Thanks, Gertrude. I think that it was both a mix of my own life experiences and knowing that I was not the only one feeling this way, and knowing, like, through the community of other migrant women, that this was experienced by other people constantly and in across many industries. So, knowing that in my own experiences, can we start again?
Yeah, you can start again. That's why I said it's all pre-edit, it's all pre-recorded, so I can always go back and edit.
Can you repeat me the question again? I just forgot the question.
Okay, so sorry, that's my next question. So the question was, can you share with us the moment or the experience that ignited your passion for diversity and inclusion, particularly in the realm of strategic communications and digital storytelling?
Thank you, Gertrude. That's a really good question. I think it was kind of a mix. It was not like a point or a moment in time. It was just through my own life experiences, knowing, feeling that I was not included, that I was listened to, but not really being listened to. Like, it was just like kind of tokenistic, like, yeah, let's listen to the woman of color of the group, but my ideas were never taken into account, and I wasn't told why. Every time that I put forward like any content, everything will be changed without like real clarity of why they were changing the words, which slowly started to affect my own self-esteem, and started to look into, sadly, into if my work experience was valuable, if my education was even good, if there are always second thinking all of my decisions, my ideas, the work that I was putting through. And then when I started working at Professional Migrant Women, then we had a community of all other migrant women that were experiencing the same things. They were not being listened to, they were not being valued, they were not being included in the work. That was the moment that I decided, like, this is a bigger problem. This is not about me. And I just want to work through it and make sure that migrant women don't feel that it's their fault, as I did for so long, because it actually affected me myself, not only personal but professionally. I kind of stepped back instead of progressing, which was the idea of why I came here, why I did a master's degree, why I wanted that overseas experience. And then, of course, my background is in communications, and I just wanted to use, the skills and knowledge that I already have, in that sense. And that's like, yeah, using diversity and inclusion with the skills that I already had. And that's when I started to, be more active in terms of creating content, becoming a personal speaker. So during 2022, with Professional Migrant Women, we published this book that's called Undefeated, which is an anthology of short stories of more than 90 migrant women. from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, migrant women who have been here 6 months, others that have been over 20 years, from all cultural backgrounds, all ages, which actually, explores these diverse stories that we all are feeling and experiencing. And then, I use my skills in that sense to promote the book, to find ways of using storytelling and communications in terms to let the other people know that it's not only about listening, it's about actually including the voice of migrant women and multicultural backgrounds.
Yeah, it's really quite interesting how these situations can corrode your self-confidence to a point where you actually start doubting yourself. Am I really qualified for this job? So,
Yeah.
in your view, how have digital platforms transferred the way that we discuss and promote diversity narratives? And what role do you believe strategic communication plays in this transformation?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I feel we are living in a really tricky time, especially in
Yes.
terms of the internet and social media, because although we have, the all of the knowledge in the world at the click of our hand,
Yes.
we also have a lot of fake news. We have, the filter bubble, which is a huge problem. And it's also helping in polarizing more our societies, our individuals. Sadly, it can be used both as a tool for, ignite change and drive social change, but it also can be used for the exact opposite.
Yeah.
I feel that, yeah, it's really tricky, because at the end of the day, we are following the things that we want to follow, and we are
Yes.
following the people that have the same thoughts as we do and confirm what we're thinking, and that goes both ways, and that
Mhm.
only helps build up, secure that bubble that I live in a world where everything I do and think it's correct because all the people around me are thinking the same thing. But if you
Yeah.
go outside that bubble, it's not true. So I
Mm.
feel like it's a great platform, but it's getting harder and harder to reach out new audiences just because of that bubble that I was talking. Like
Yeah.
I can say like, oh, everything is fine. Like all of my contacts, all of the people that I follow, support diversity and inclusion, support social justice drive. But when you go out there in the real, like in real
World.
life, that's not true. Then you see the media and you realize that's not true, and you just see people again polarizing more and more because they're being going to extremes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a challenge. It really is a challenge that we need to overcome. Now, you are now working for the Intercultural Commission, correct?
Yes.
Let me see. So let's talk about what are some of the most significant challenges that you faced when creating campaigns that are focused on diversity and inclusion, and how did you overcome these challenges?
Thank you, Gertrude. I think that one of the biggest challenges for me at the beginning was being really conscious about using inclusive communications and
Yes.
making sure, because sometimes it happens that when you're in diversity inclusion, you forget that it's quite a vast and big group. It's not only talking about multiculturalism, it's also talking about diverse faiths, diverse ages, different ages, if you are able-bodied or not able-bodied, if you have any type of disability. So making sure that communications have inclusive lens and also an intersectional lens. I feel that intersectionality plays a huge role in everything, but especially in terms of communications, and especially when you are, using communications campaigns to ignite change and drive social change. So that's one of the key areas that I feel is very important. Also, being mindful of the different themes that we are looking at. I feel that it's really important to always look at the positive side of things, to always, start. There's this model that's called values-based message. So, start and put the audience in the world that you want, which is the world that we all want. Like, who wouldn't want, women and children to have the same rights as men? Like, who's gonna go against that? So always going through the bright side, and and the future that we all want, and talk about the barriers that are not letting do, like they're not letting us do that, and ending with a call to action that people can actually do. Like, we know that this is a huge movement campaign. We're not gonna change, we're not gonna make the whole world inclusive from one night to another, but we can start slowly by calling out when you see that someone is being someone has been using microaggressions against another person, like realizing that that there's ways to communicate, or helping out others, being more inclusive with your own language so everybody feels included. So, like, starting with small actions and not big things, it's something that really works out.
Yeah. So you've put an intersectional lens into everything you do. Can you elaborate how this approach influences your work in communications and the campaign strategies, and why it's so important?
Yeah, well, of course, intersectionality is important because we don't all have the same experiences, and we need to recognize that some of our experience, that we all have privilege, and that we need to recognize what privilege that is. In my case, I'm a very privileged person because I have a high education. I'm able to speak two languages, and I'm really good at speaking English. But other migrant women, for example, can have like more difficulties in terms of not having higher education, or not having independence, financial independence, being of a faith that can be restrictive, or that others can be discriminated at. So just taking into account that we are not coming from a same place, that we
Yes.
all have challenges and our pressures playing into place, is really important in communications, because you cannot ask, disabled, lesbian, woman of color to have the same actions as a white, able woman. So you have to, like, that really plays out in how you personalize your communications, how you talk to different people. And to be honest, there's some people that have to do a little bit more work than others, and also
Yes.
being really clear that it's not our job to educate people about diversity, or inclusion. It's about people also taking that into their own kind of journey, wanted to educate themselves to do that. So I feel like it is, intersectionality helps you to really personalize and tailor your communication, so they can really be strategic, and that the
Yeah,
message is actually landing with the right audience.
I like that. So, as somebody who empowers immigrant women, what are the unique stories or experiences that you've encountered which highlight the importance of diversity and inclusion in this particular community?
Oh, that's a lovely question. Look, I have many. There's one story that I really like about Christine, which is she's a Malaysian woman. sorry, she's an older woman, and then she's already retired, and she was one of the authors of Undefeated. And when asked
Right.
like, why did you decided, to share your story, she said, look, I've been living here in Australia for so long. Back then I came first from China to Malaysia with my parents, and at that time you bought a ticket and it was just one-way ticket. There was no way you could buy another one. And then from Malaysia to Australia, I landed here, and then I lost all contact with my ancestors, like a family. Like I didn't know when my parents died. I didn't know who my grandparents were. I didn't know anything about my line, and I just wanted to write my story so my grandchildren will know where they came from, because that happened to me. Like I wanted to know where they came from. But what I didn't expect is that people wanted to listen to my story. So she started going on book talks around her consul, talking about her story, talking about what she decided to write that story on Undefeated. And then she started connecting with people in the community who either have felt that they didn't know where their parents came from and wanted to know, or other kind of stories, to understand that they were not alone. And she said, like, I'm ready to retire. I already had a career, and look at me now. I never thought in my life someone would be interested in my life experiences, and I be giving inspiration to other people to reconnect with their ancestors, to know more about their stories. So that's like just one of the examples of how important it is to include different perspectives, and know that it's important also the journey and where you come from, because all of your life also, that like it's affected by who were the ones coming before you, right?
Yes, that is so true. So, how does your feminist belief and advocacy for gender equity shape the projects that you undertake and the messages that you aim to spread?
Well, for starters, like my work, I work all of the work that I do is to empower women, and especially empower migrant women. So starting for that, all of the work that I'm doing is to help women feel more independent, feel more empowered, and just not giving them information, but teaching them the tools so they can be independent and they can share that knowledge with other people.
Right.
Coming by the essence of gender equality. If we want gender equality, everybody has to be equal, and we start doing that by being independent, by being able to make your own decisions, by being unafraid to use your voice when you need it. But you need tools and a community to do that, especially when you're a woman,
Yes.
especially when you're a migrant woman. So everything I do is it's based on on gender equality and empowering women. That's and just because of what I told you at the beginning, for my own experience, when I was little, everybody told me that if I wanted to succeed in life, I had to get married with an older man who will support me. So basically,
Yes.
my parents giving the responsibility of myself to another person. But I was like, no, like the responsibility of you know paving my own path, it's my own, and I want to have that responsibility, and I want to have that independence. I want to choose who I want to build a life with, and or if I want to build a life with someone or not. And I want to be able to choose what career I want to follow, and if I want to have a family or not. And all of that is based on and I base all of that in what I do. I want women to have the same options that I have been given in these past few years.
I love that. You're so clear about which direction you want things to go and which direction you want your life to go, which is beautiful to watch. So, you've described yourself as having an innovative spirit when facing challenges. Can you give us an example of an innovative approach that you've taken to address diversity inclusion issues?
Wow, that's a really good question. Well, look, to be honest, sometimes for me, like I realized that at the beginning of my journey, I thought that to make a huge change, you had to be someone important, be someone in a leadership position, have a platform to talk. And I didn't realize that you can start, being a platform to ignite change and help have a more diverse and inclusive society, starting on your own kind of social circle. And one of the
Yes.
things that I feel that it's really important, that might not sound innovative, but it actually is for my personal perspective, is using your voice. And that's really important because for so long, I thought that my voice didn't have value. I was made believe, because of all of the experiences that I had, that I was not intelligent enough, that I was not skilled enough, that I was not professional enough, that I didn't have the experience, the education. And I believed that for so long. And I lost my voice. I thought it was not important. I thought, like, why would anybody want to hear me? I'm a failed person. I haven't done anything that they told me that I had to do up to this point. And the moment I decided to use my voice to speak up, to share my story, and seeing how it connected with other people, and seeing that they feel represented, that we were someone talking out there, even if my voice was shaking, which most of the time was, um, that really make a change. I really could see the community feeling more supported, feeling seen, feeling heard,
Right.
reaching out to me, telling thank you for sharing your story. I feel less alone now. I know what options do I have available, because it's not only about sharing your story, right? It's also about giving practical tips and solutions of, if you are in this place, this is what you can do, and being more visible, and not being unafraid, are more visible about what are the issues and and that we all have a role to play, right? And that we
Yeah.
all can do something to help be more diverse and inclusive society, and not be like a tokenistic or kind of trendy hashtag, right?
Yeah. And that happens a lot. It's such a pity.
Yeah.
So, what lessons have you learned from your personal experience as a resilient migrant woman that you apply to your professional work to advocate for DEI?
um that is a great question. You know for a long time, I had this erroneous idea that leaders must be, like a white male, and everything they said, it was the right thing, and you have to be strong, and you wouldn't have to show weaknesses. But it's actually the other way around. I learned that being soft and empathetic is quite powerful. That
Yes.
being It's really important to acknowledge that you don't have all the answers, that there's people out there with other perspectives that just enrich whatever you're working through, whatever project, either professional, personal life you're working through, and giving that space for people to use their voice and include their voice. It's so important, and it can be a small thing, as, like, for example, in a campaign project, use the photo that they chose or the font that they chose, but giving that space that they feel included, and listen, it's so
Yeah.
powerful. And that's one of the things that I've learned, to really not just um, stay there and pretend that I'm listening, but make sure that I'm being uh, aware that that there's other perspectives there, being open to learn, knowing that I don't have all the answers, and making
Yeah.
sure that the people I work with always feel included in the work and in the projects that I'm involved in. That's something I really think is really
That's
important.
fantastic. That is just awesome. So, my final question for you now. is based on really, looking a little bit into the future. Looking forward towards the future, how do you see the role of diversity and inclusion evolving in the digital age, especially with the rapid advancement of telecommunication, of technology in communications?
Oh, you're making such great questions. I feel like there's a really important role, and even if you go a step backward, we really need to make sure to be really diverse and inclusive is to start working before we put that technology out there, right? And the only way to do that is by including the diverse experiences, lenses, and perspective in that work. I'm actually really enthusiastic and positive about it. I've seen a lot of projects where you can see, for example, women with disabilities presenting projects and training of how to make websites more accessible and how to make technology more accessible. People really checking into the gaps of knowing, like, if we live in a multicultural country, it's important that on Google we have, for example, different translations for key family and domestic family violence words, so they can find the resources that they need to, whether they write it in Chinese, Spanish, Hindi, or English. So I'm seeing increasingly more projects where more diverse and inclusive lenses have been put on, because we are listening to those voices, because we're listening to the diverse voices. So I don't have like a clear vision of how it's gonna look like, but if we keep including those voices in the creation of platforms, tools, and technology, I think it's gonna be a really great future for D&I.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming online and sharing all your knowledge and your wisdom today. It's an absolute honor to see a young woman who is championing diversity, not just in the workplace, but in the community as well. Thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you for having me and listening to me.
And thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. The Diversity Connector is a platform that brings you voices from people from diverse backgrounds so we can celebrate our diversity and share our experiences. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the wrong one. And that's a wrap, everybody, on today's episode of the Diversity Connector podcast. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our vibrant and global conversation. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a tapestry of diverse perspectives. Remember, every story you've heard today is a thread in the larger fabric of our shared humanity. So, as you step back into your world, carry these stories with you and let them inspire you to embrace and celebrate the rich diversity around us. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these inspiring stories with more listeners. Do follow us on social media by looking for the Diversity Connector